Hey, new video! New video about what? Voice acting! Today we're going to be talking about the distance you should be keeping between yourself and the microphone. Whoa, what is that? New camera? What is this, quality? The goal of this video is to basically get a general scale of how far you should be going from the microphone depending on how loud you're talking. And it does vary when it comes to what microphone you're using, but we're going to have a general scale of what I think is preferably the best for me and what you can be experimenting with. So that brings us to three categories: low volume, medium volume, and high volume. Let's start with low volume, the volume where you're not speaking too loudly and where you're kind of whispering or doing a Corpse Husband impression.
Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Corpse Husband. You guys want to play some Among Us?
When I speak with a low volume or I have to whisper something for an audition, I preferably go 6 inches away from the microphone. That's about 1 cm. Yeah! This type of volume is mostly used for characters that are either soft-spoken or emo or have some type of ASMR voice.
The choose victim only.
Now, onto the likely most common one, medium voices, where you basically talk like you do in your daily life. This is the one where most people struggle to find what distance they should be keeping because everyone has a different voice range. And I'll be talking more about that in a future video, so stay tuned for that. According to voices.com, the general scale is around 6 to 12 inches, which is either 1 or 2 cm. And I usually keep around 12 inches distance because that's just what I prefer doing. And the way that I can measure that is by picking, like, I don't know, I think this fits. Dabbing wooden doll. I just hold it onto the microphone and then I check how far I am away from it. And I usually tend to get closer to the microphone, and what happens then is that the bass in my voice
gets louder.
So the best thing to do is to just experiment with it a little bit until you find what fits you best. And when it comes to what type of voice work you're doing, you should also check what fits best for you. Let's say you're doing a commercial, you might want to get a little bit further away, or when you're doing a character, you might also want to get a little bit further away, but when you're doing narration, maybe you should get a little bit closer. You should always check what fits best for you. Now, to this day, I'm still experimenting a little bit with what distance I should be keeping because I audition for a lot of different characters. I do lines for a lot of different characters, so this is basically what I look like when I'm recording anything. And finally, we have the high volume, where you either scream or shout. This is basically the volume where you assert your dominance to the microphone. But try not to be too loud because then your audio starts peaking, and when it starts peaking, basically your audio turns numb.
When your brain goes,
or your audio gets totally deep fried. So it's important to know the difference between screaming and shouting. Shouting is basically this, and screaming is... So it's important to know the difference between those two. So shouting is basically talking with a really loud voice, and screaming is basically letting out all of the emotions you had built up for a week. So if you want to prevent peaking from happening, or the deep fry effect, try to keep your social distance from the microphone.
Social distance.
Now, I have a special guest and a good friend of mine, FoxVA, who I talk with about the whole high volume thing.
When it comes to certain voices, especially bassier voices, you're gonna have to like get closer to the mic. There's a few voices in which I have that are down here, and now I have to be very close to the mic. But closer to my range or even higher pitched voices, I have to back up. I have to. It's gonna be, or you're gonna end up hearing all the peaks that ever existed, like it was Mount Everest.
Usually I try not to go too far away because otherwise there's like too much echo going on in my room. So I try to at least be a little bit closer and just try my best not to peak while I scream.
I have to stand in the middle of my room to scream. I'm just very loud. I kind of have to be very far away.
You can change the gain, right? Like for...
Yeah. Like this is why this kind of conversation is kind of hard, because there's a rule of thumb with this that a lot of people get taught, but it also depends on you and the type of mic you're using, what audio program you're using.
Yeah.
If you're using XLR or USB, because all these things will change like dramatically.
So while Fox and I were going over the topic of what type of microphone to use, a new friend of ours, JMB, gave us her take on XLR microphones.
I love them, but I don't love the fact that I can hear the reverb and the echo. And so that means that if you don't clean up your own stuff, then I have to hire someone else to clean up your stuff. Now I have to get a sound engineer, and sound engineers will not take what voice actors will take. So they're like, aha, for every freaking line that I have to do, I want double the most you're paying the voice actors.
That's dumb. Yeah,
this is how it can get expensive. You get the great mic. The mic picks up every inkling of sound, but it's supposed to be used in a sound booth. So you don't have a sound booth. So now you got to soundproof your room. So you're on Amazon trying to find sound stuff, and you're sitting there inside of a blanket in the closet trying to make yourself a sound booth. And you spent hundreds and hundreds of extra dollars.
I know this. She's still here spitting the Bible right now. Like
she preaches.
This is how it gets
bars on bars on bars.
You know,
you're basically just like making the entire like point of what I'm trying to say with my videos in like 1 or 2 sentences.
I know, right?
Oh, sorry.
I don't even need to do anything anymore. Like my video's done. Now we have a general idea of what distance we should be keeping from the microphone depending on what volume we're talking. So to quickly recap, when talking at a low volume, you'd preferably stay about 5 to 6 inches from your microphone. 5 inches in your mom. For medium voices, try to stick around 11 to 12 inches from your microphone. This could vary. You could also get closer to the microphone if you're soft-spoken, or further away if you just have a loud voice. And finally, high volume. For this one, try to experiment a little bit with it. Do keep your distance, but also make sure that you're not too far away, because then you get too much echo noise. If you do notice that you have too much echo in your room, try to cover yourself with a towel, or as I do, a bathrobe, so that you can numb it out a little bit. Otherwise, try to isolate your room by either putting towels everywhere or getting an actual good studio, but I wish I had a studio. Also, something I should mention is if you are speaking at a loud volume, if you have a button on your microphone or on your interface that can change the gain, try to lower it a tiny bit. Also try to experiment a little bit with the amount of gain that you're using. But that's about it. I hope you learned something, and if you didn't, go watch Tom Scott or something like that.
Comic Relief asked me to make my face funny for money.